1 year since humanity lost their war against the demon kin, a vast majority of human had been massacred, and the surviving population had been captured, destroying their mental capacity and using them as hosts to give birth to new monster. He was the last human where the world has met its end. As the last survivor of the resistance, he has continued out that lonely fight. Up until this moment, in the face of the demon lord Tartarus, the monarch of demons. Zephyr gets stabbed by the monarch's sword as he sat down waiting for his end. Tartarus casts time-slowing magic to Zephyr as he wants to continue carries out the conversation a little bit longer. Tartarus commends Zephyr as he is the first human who has been able to bother the monarch in such a long time. The tenacity he possesses is astonishing, that he applauds Zephyr for that. Tartarus tells Zephyr that those who give up after being scared of their opponent's power are not wise, they are just weak. When he sees those who are weak and are without perseverance, he gets angered beyond belief. Tartarus offers Zephyr to work under him, as someone how had climbed to the top of the human world. He claims that he will take him to go beyond that small world to another, to even the home of gods. He adds that he wants to conquer all the other worlds with his power and Zephyr's. With the impact of the fight they just had, Zephyr's body has been shattered beyond imagination. He can tell himself that his body has no way of healing back to its original form. Thinking about the offers, he assumes that it's actually not. Zephyr thoughts that Tartarus only wants another way for him to beg for his life. He then approached Tartarus's hand. The thoughts of the loved one comes to his mind. She knows that Zephyr's personality is so awful, she has always told him this and that. And since he never listened to her, she placed a peculiar spell on him. So if Zephyr ever do that with his hand, his body would explode with the power that would reach beyond their realm. And that's his answer to the demon lord, while also giving Tartarus his middle finger. He explodes himself, where the explosion went as far as the whole plateau. Unfortunately, the demon lord survives, only his hands get incinerated. The only thing he can think of is anger. He is so angry towards the human that time by time always annoy him. What's left of Zephyr now is his burned body, which the demon lord punches to subdue his anger. And with that, Zephyr's fights had finally ended. He wasn't able to get revenge for his cherished one and couldn't save humanity like they had wished. It ended in vain, just like that. But what he doesn't know is, he awakes in his recovered body with his memories intact and even his armor is fine. He wonders where he is, thoughts he never see a temple with the statues of God like this. The conclusion he has is, it's the afterlife in the underworld. But there's someone coming. She says that it's not the underworld, but the lowest floor of the pantheon, where the gods reside. The sounds comes from an angel, and Zephyr fails when he tries to summon his sword. The angel tells him not to worry, introduces herself as the high-level angel Mercedes, who will shares the words of gods. She tells him that he already died. She explained that usually he would have been sent to the underworld directly. However, by the strong demand from the three great gods, they have decided to send Zephyr back to the past. She explained it further that Zephyr will retain his memories, but not his ability, train physique, magic power, and obtain skills. The only thing Zephyr can think of is it as a dream, and Tartarus cast an hallucination ability on him. He thoughts further that when people were dying all around him during the demon's attack, and when he was desperate praying for help, the gods had ceased all communication with their world. They refused to answer their prayer, and they didn't receive their sacrifices either. Also, they took away the clergy's ability to borrow the power of gods, causing them to lose their abilities to heal, resulting in the quick demise of the human armies. Once they calculated that there was nothing to gain, they threw away their world. There would be no reason why those calculating gods would give him a chance like that for free. The angel actually knows what Zephyr is thinking, and what the gods want is something a little more interesting to watch. Zephyr is mad, then shoot a mana punch, threatening the angel, doesn't even want to listen to the angel's explanation. He is so mad. To the gods, when Zephyr and everyone he loved fought with their lives was just for entertainment for the gods. As he going angrier, the angel summons the god's power. A massive leg appears, stamping on Zephyr. The angel then explains, by providing his own self-worth, that is the only way that he can receive what he pleases. That is the same for humans and other species alike, as nothing can be free in this world. She explained further that there is one god that has been strongly demanding for his return for another reason. It turns out that Tartarus took his anger towards the angels. He wants another fight as he doesn't accept the fact that he got hit by a mere human. Then the angel asks again, does Zephyr would take the offer? And it's obvious now, as he says it. If Tartarus really wishes to die, Zephyr will grant that wish. So the angel starts the spell, as Zephyr thoughts that even though it's an opportunity given by the disgusting gods, an opportunity is an opportunity. And he will take that opportunity to take his revenge on the demon god Tartarus, and to all the gods who look down on him like bugs. The next thing he knows, he wake up being called Rookie. There's a man pours water on top on his head. Zephyr thoughts that he feel like he has been seen them before. Looking at the stigma, he remember when he was a slave of the temple, 10 years before his fights with the demon god. The first thing he does is to look for a place that no one's around, then open the perks for being returned to the past. He gets headache as the information comes into his head all at once. Either it's top-class skills and items, and even abilities that were implemented as actual skills. Zephyr is happy and thoughts how crazy it is for them to give out something like that. Then the supervisor of the slaves find him out. He repeatedly tells him to get back to work and comes closer, going to whip him. But in this second life, Zephyr able to catch it. Instead of agitating the situation, he simply just apologized then get back to work. Zephyr is wondering why he is able to catch the whip. He assumes that it looks so slow because of all his battle experience until the battle with the demon god. Thanks to the skill called Wall of Iron, that even there's no scratch on his hand. That skill is the first perk he gets, drastically increases defense power, and makes him completely ignores damage that is lower than his defense power. Lastly, the passive skill will cause him to not tire out easily and could do the mining work all day long. As Zephyr submit his ore that day and they announce the rankings for each team. Zephyr's group received the first ranking and according to their protocols, the supplies for the last place will be divided among the ranks above them. It is then explained that the Temple of Aria, one of the 3 great gods, is the biggest religion and also the biggest loan company in the continent. Most of the people there have either lost their homes to monsters, or were once adventurers, but were rescued by the temple and became slaves to pay off their vast medical bills. Anyhow, while Zephyr still has the stigma on him, he is not free to move around as he pleases. If he goes outside the work territory without permission, his heart would stop and he would die immediately. So, he need to quickly pay for his medical bills and regain freedom. Only then he can proceed with his next plan. While also thinking about his past lover, Altair promises that he will protect her this time. Zephyr then comes to the stall, asking to get recovery potion and he dump all of his money to buy the recovery potions. Even goes as far as taking a loan to pay for it. He explains that the recovery potion, that recovers a small portion of one's health, has a hidden effect where one's magic power increases if one drinks a large quantity. And the other perks that Zephyr has called the Vision of Hermes, which drastically increases the effect of all potions by 500%. Day by day, he repeats the same process on mining to earn money, drink the recovery potion and trains. One day, he reports to the mining supervisor that he heard a monster's cry. So he asks the supervisor to call the hunter team, then he can lead them towards the place where he heard the monster cry. It is then explained that the monsters are beings that were born from warps within magic. Since most monsters were hostile against humans, they had caused so much damage. However, they also gave humans a second chance. The crystallization of magic within their bodies, the magic stones, the bone and fur used as material for items. And before they know it, monsters had become a precious material that they couldn't live without. That also meant that dungeons were to be home for monster. While also dangerous, they were also like treasure chests waiting to be discovered. While hunters sometimes are slaves that were selected and chosen for their combat prowess and specialization in hunting. To compensate for the facing the dangers that were monsters, they had a higher base pay, and were paid with incentive based on their progress. Zephyr gets back to the stall to buy recovery potion, but the stall owner refused to give him more loan, because of his rank is too low and maxed out his loan limit. Then a priestess offers him money if he would sell his organs, and of course for the sake of getting stronger he accepts the offer. And the stall owner gives him a whole pack of the recovery potions. Zephyr chugs it down as the priestess thoughts that he is crazy for drank it all. As he finishes drinking it, the hunter team arrive calling out to him. The leader is Go, then he introduces the team, and Zephyr says that even though he don't have night vision, he is able to use mana detection, which enable him to spread mana in a wide field and heighten his sense. He explained that in order to go deep into a dark dungeon without attracting attention from the monsters, it's crucial that one has that kind of skill. As they prepare to go to the mine, Zephyr also being tasked to be the porter. It is revealed that Zephyr gets transported to the hunter team after a month the dungeon in the mine was cleared. As he remembers it, he knows at least one of the team members, and if things were to go the same way, 2 of them would die in the dungeon. Now, Zephyr plans to use them for his own advantage. At the entrance of the dungeon, there are another team waiting as they are the Scout Hunter. The leader gives the hunting team each a bracelet. He explains that the string bracelet laced with magic, and if something happens to the hunting team while they are in the dungeon, the other bracelet that he wears will snap by itself. If that happens, he will request backup from the base. While the hunter team enter the dungeon, he also reminds Zephyr that he is with the reconnaissance team, and as long as Zephyr pays attention, there won't be any need for that. Inside the dungeon, wolves monster waiting for them. The hunters use stone to distract them, and when they close in and get behind them to finish them off. Their main role was to check if there were monsters and gathering information about the inside of the dungeon. Based on the information they collect, they would then create an attack squad that would have the necessary firepower to clear the dungeon. That's how things usually went, as the reconnaissance team was also made up of hunters with combat abilities. If they determine that it would be easy to handle, there are times when they clear the dungeon themselves right away. While the other members are not sure, Goth manages to convince them to do it, even after saying that they have dead weight that they have to carry. Calling out to Zephyr, Goth then tells him to take out the supply he prepared earlier. It was hazelnut leaves and seeds, intended to be used as bait because it gives out the smell of female kobold. Since the smell is so strong, they kobolds in the cave would notice it right away, and when they ran ecstatically looking for mating, the hunters will lay traps to kill them. Zephyr remembers how in his past life he works together with Goth. As Goth wants to receive approval from others, he never had the chance to do so. But in this life, Zephyr tells Goth something before deciding to clear it. It was to clear the dungeon with traps, as Zephyr claims that he went inside the dungeon alone, telling Goth that the dungeon is only invested with small kobolds. So Zephyr suggests to clear the dungeon themselves, as Zephyr thoughts that it would be a waste to give up the chance to other people. And with that, they slay the kobolds inside, while Gother feels proud of himself to be able to take all the credits clearing the dungeon. Going deeper into it, one of the member, Gale, finds something that leads to some kind of a nest, where suddenly there's a massive claw reaching out to him. As he has no time to react, the claw manages to grab him and throws him out, surprising the others. Marco immediately readying himself for battle and telling the other members to stand behind him, as he feels afraid with the thought of what might hide in the nest. What he doesn't know is, the monster is quite big and he doesn't have a chance tanking it. Meanwhile, at the same time outside the dungeon, the scout who gives them the bracelet is surprised to see 3 of the bracelets is breaking all at once. That's when Goth tries to stand his ground, with blood running down from his shoulder, while Zephyr helps him defend against the tail of the monster with his Will of Iron passive skill. As the tail grabs its prey, what comes out is Predator, a monster who uses its pheromones to trick others monsters into thinking they are the same species, and eats the monster that raised the predator when it's become fully grown, with the sole purpose to wreak havoc. Zephyr is all fire up now, taking the spear Goth uses and readily take on the predator. With his third perk from the gods, in his left hand is the silver key to a room in a forgotten castle, where he can store and withdraw items from. In other words, a subspace artifact. He uses it to take out Dragon's soul plant, which will make him calm upon consuming, and a cloth to tie up the spear to his hand so he won't lose it. Goth tries to stand up, thinking that there is no way a miner could stand up against the predator. But then it screams, uses its skill inflicting fear deep down into Goth's heart. Goth then remembers the stories his seniors had told him when he was new. A few years ago, when an adult predator attacked a nearby village, it said that the villagers couldn't even blink and had to witness the event, because they were paralyzed by fear and couldn't even move a muscle. There was nothing they could do except wait for their turns. But what he witnessed now is so far from that story. With a spear in hand, Zephyr trades blow with the predator. Because of the dragon's soul plan he prepared, he didn't get affected by the fear effect, as he doesn't have enough magic power to slay predator with sheer strength. He takes out a green substance, thinking that's more than enough to take care of puppy like the predator. He reveals that it is the Venom King Fade's 72nd venom and coating his spear with it, which Zephyr gets from his good friend, where he spent all of his life researching poisons. He says that it's better if everyone uses it, as he hopes that if his poison can kill one more piece of trash to save one more person. With the spear coated in poison, Zephyr stabs the predator, making it screams in pain. It turns out that the lethal venom burial, which was made with the most common herbs, will enter one's bloodstream and spoils their organ, while also caused excruciating pain. That's also why the Venom King called a big sadist. As Predator tries to stamp Zephyr, he estimates that the venom will fill its body in 3 minutes, and until then he needs to stay alive. but he forget the fact that Predator can use its tail. As it swing it, Zephyr fails to defend against it and gets thrown against the cave's wall. Swiftly, predators came right in front of him with an open jaw, intending to shred him to pieces. But Zephyr has another plan for it. He throws another vial of the venom to its mouth before evading the upcoming attack. As it is not enough for him, Zephyr also land multiple hit at once on it, making it screaming even more and vomit blood. Looking at it, he has about a minute left until the poison spread, and coming again to the predator, decides to lay the finishing blow himself. Its tail swinging again, attacking Zephyr, but now, he evades it and grabs onto it, propels him right on top on Predator. He let go of the tail and with the spear in hand, he stabs the predator in its head, making it cries out pain, and it even tries to swing its claws to Zephyr, but it only manages to break the pole of the spear instead of hitting him. Zephyr then takes the broken pole and stab it again on its head. As it was not enough to finish the predator, Zephyr takes out a knife from his hip, stabbing the predator on its head again. At this point, the predator just rampaging around the cave in pain, trying to get Zephyr off from its head. The only thing Zephyr needs to do now is to take the final blow on it. So he uses the momentum from the swing, jumping in the air on top of the predator. Armed with all of the recovery potion he drank all of this time, he uses a simple technique to envelop his hand in magic power. With a skill called Discharge, he punches the spear, piercing through the predator's head. Goth, who witness it all, can't believe what just happened, thinking that with strength like that, Zephyr could easily move to the hunter team. He misunderstood that even Zephyr didn't win over his good side. Zephyr worth would have quickly been recognized anyway. But right now, Zephyr is nothing but a minor, and Zephyr needs a ticket in form of Goth. Somewhere else, there's a group of people ganging up on a last living person from a kind of group of people. He cries that he is not the demon god worshipper, but Sahach, a man with a robe, calls out to his teammates to crush him anyway. From that crushed person's corpse, there's a centipede coming out, marking him to be the demon god worshipper, which Sahach immediately destroys the centipede. The next thing he does is reporting the matter to his leader, called Matthias, as he is mad that in order to find one demon god worshipper, Sahach needs to slaughter 7 members of the temple. It turns out that they have a plan to do a raid in a month, and Sahach promises Matthias that he will rule out the heretics from the temple as much as possible and deliver a better result in the raid. Arriving at the Department of Human Resource, Goth nominates Zephyr to be a hunter in his team. The priest then processes the nominee. It turns out that in the cave, Zephyr asks Goth to talk. He wants Goth to not reporting the appearance of the predator. While Goth is worried that might be found out, Zephyr takes the predator's corpse into the silver room. It is then explained that the dungeons such as the monster's corpse, magic stone, items will be taken by the temple. The only things that slaves able to obtain is a bonuses based on the clearing reward and value of the loot. Zephyr then offers Goth a promotion. He will help Goth to advance through 3 more dungeons, and Zephyr will get all of the monster's corpses. While waiting for the ID tag for transferring to become a hunter, Zephyr thoughts the great raid with the temple knights. That's scheduled to happen within next month. That's where they will discover the item that will cause a huge wave over the entire continent. And Zephyr determines to get his hand on it, and he needs to be on the raid party to change the future. When the procedures is completed, Zephyr has been told to collect all the essential equipment from the supply depot. So he walks there with Goth, while thinking that he enlisted to the hunter team after the raid participant list was announced, and the numbers of the raid party is about 20. In order to join, he needs outstanding achievements or connections in order to get into that party. As Goth explains about the depot, the team which hunts the demon god worshipper pass on them. So Goth grabs Zephyr's head, telling him to bow down. Goth explained that they are the team of heresy examiners, the direct slaves of the examiner, and the leader of the party is Sahach, who also called the Mad Dog. That's when Sahach suddenly calls them out, pointing his hand at Zephyr. He introduces himself, and when Goth tries to cover for Zephyr, Sahach releases his killing intent and makes Goth backs off. But it doesn't affect Zephyr though, makes Sahach certain while there's no one else that would notice, and since Sahach was blessed to have extremely heightened sense, he knows that Zephyr is a high-level expert. It turns out that all new slaves are performance tested prior to being assigned a department. A test in strength and magic. They always give one the opportunity to battle for the hunting team, since they're always in need of new recruits. But such a high-level expert was in the mining team, and was nominated to be transferred to the hunting team is simply unnatural. And all of Sahach's members swiftly circling around Zephyr. Sahach then hold him off, intending to ask a few questions. He asks whether Zephyr ever heard about a demon god worshipper. which it turns out only a handful of people knows about its existence, and no one knows them better than Zephyr, the demon god worshipper. Believers that worship the demon god Tartarus, who are the beings that would lead the humanity to destruction in the upcoming battle for human survival. They betray all of humanity. Sahach explained that he works under Lord Matthias, saying that he sees Zephyr are dangerous. With the simple words, Zephyr provokes them, saying that they wouldn't be able to hold their honor as something unfortunate will befall them. So, Sahach activates a spell called Red Field which buffs him, and the more the users are in on the field, the buffs also increases. While Zephyr uses a weird stance that Sahach had never seen before. In an instant, Sahach appears in front of Zephyr, uses Accelerate and starts trading blows with Zephyr. Sahach uses Trust, which Zephyr easily dodges, and prepares his own attack, but it only scratches Sahach's forehead. As Sahach rolling back away from him, he tries to kick his leg thinking that it worked. But Sahach realized that he just kicked a steel pipe, ended up losing control of the fight. Zephyr then bombards him with punches. Even with the buffs from the red field, Sahach can't do anything against it and lost his sword. Fighting Sahach, Zephyr fails to notice the attacks that comes towards him, so he had no choice but to take it head on. The man with bulk build swinging around his steel ball. He asks Zephyr to play with him now, but Zephyr just mock him, saying that he is just a pet that being raised. He throw it towards Zephyr, but Zephyr easily get of the way of the trajectory of the attack. As the steel breaks the stone road and start going to go towards Zephyr along with the continuous attack from the man, Zephyr is keep showing a swift movement to block everything that comes his way. But, as the time passes, everyone else start getting stronger in the red field while Zephyr keeps tire out. The bulky guy manages to tie Zephyr's hands with his chain, and that allows an opening for Sahach to strike Zephyr's back. Sahach says that the playtime is over. He tells Zephyr to just quietly beg for his life. Then with the buffs from the red field and Accelerate, he dashes towards Zephyr, but instead of finishing Zephyr in just one attack, Sahach plays with tied up Zephyr, wounding him slowly. Sahach abilities has increased by 80%, saying that there is nothing Zephyr can do when faced with overwhelming speed like that. But what he doesn't know is Zephyr watch every moves he made, where suddenly with the tied hands, Zephyr just stomp him, slamming him into the ground. Zephyr grabs Sahach's hair and lifting him up only to hit him again, adding that their teamwork is trash as Sahach keep flying around like a fly, which makes the bulky guy had no opening to land an attack. Then Zephyr faced the bulky guy again, asking why he is so far away from him while having such a build. Zephyr then uses his aura to draw the man closer, and consecutively attack the other members at the same time with the steel ball. In the end, the heresy examiners are all defeated. Sahach asks Zephyr whether he is really a god worshipper, which Zephyr brushes off, saying that Sahach doesn't have the right to hear the answer. Meanwhile, a man with a red hair watching them fight from the temple, as he is surprised to see Zephyr, thinking that Zephyr is someone that has been sent to hunt him. After the fight, Zephyr goes somewhere to deal with something else, walking towards an empty alley. The next thing that happens is he breaks down in pain, from a side effect of mana freezing when his mana is depleted. Then something shows up in the sky, marking the sign of the collection is about to start. Zephyr faces the spirit of Shylock, saying that under the authority of the god of Loan, Uzra, adding that he has confirmed that Zephyr's mana has fallen to 0. The skill Wall of Iron will start its collection. It turns out the passive skill Wall of Iron isn't just a skill that increases defense and endurance. The reality is during the skill usage, the fatigue and damages will pile up in a debt. When the user's mana has reached 0, the accumulated damages are regained in full like debt from a lone shark. Mana adventurers have used that skill to challenge higher level dungeon, and met their untimely death. The god of Loan, Uzra, the double-edged sword that feasts on the destruction of humans. Skylock then calculating the accumulated damages Zephyr had suffered. As the calculating completed, he summons a massive bell to stomp on Zephyr, but Zephyr knows it well, and start going for his emergency recovery potion he hides in his hand. When the bell about to fall right on top of him, he drinks the potion and Shylock confirm the mana Zephyr has, then cancel the collection and disappears. Zephyr then laugh at Uzra, saying that Uzra had underestimated him, adding that he comes prepared for things like that, since he is the pro that survived for a year even after humans went extinct. He doesn't forget to provoke Uzra, thanking him and giving him the middle finger before he passed out. While Uzra is so mad at him, having to learn that he had been played by Zephyr. The next thing Zephyr knows, he wakes up being tied in a bed. What welcomes him is the priestess that gave him loan. Due to the loan that Zephyr takes for buying all of the recovery potions before going to the dungeon is overdue for an hour. The priestess knows that Zephyr is going around doing dangerous things, making her so mad, so she decides to collect the collateral for the loan, which is Zephyr's organ. Now Zephyr is having a hard time remembering the name of the priestess, as her men preparing to cut his arm off. Once he remembers it, he calls out to her and she tells her men to stop. She is surprised how come Zephyr knows her other persona, and asks him who he is. Zephyr smiles as she tells her men to go out from the room. She then asks him again how in the world Zephyr knows that name, which he offers, calling her the monster broker, White Rose. He then explained that she is a sister of the Shrine of Light, Anna Primrose, and the name of her other persona is the White Rose, who has a connection with the underworld and exchanges monster corpses, equipment, and information regarding people. It's crazy to attempt to clear a raid dungeon with only the cheap equipment one can find from the hunters. That's why he will need to negotiate with the priestess to get some gear. He then asks her to talk as he couldn't be happier that she has picked him up and tells her to untie him. Meanwhile, Sahach wakes up angry, throwing stuff around, scaring the nurse that take care of him. He is so pissed remembering Zephyr telling that he has no right to know who Zephyr is and determined to kill Zephyr himself. Knowing the ruckus, Ned, his superior, comes checking on him. As Sahach tries to stand up, giving him respect, Ned tells him to just lie down while also telling the healers to go out. Ned tells Sahach that he heard stories about what happened to him. As Sahach tries to apologize to him, Ned stops him talking by feeding him a knife into his mouth. He says that every single person that he came across today, for the entirety of tonight, was talking about the incident. Ned is angry that Sahach dared, in front of all those slaves, get beat up like a useless dog. To make matter worse, Ned also mentioned that in the past 2 years, Sahach can only manage to find 2 demon gods worshipper. Sahach can only kneel in front of Ned, trembling to ask for one more chance, begging as he will do anything. Ned then tells him to not let those who have brought them shame live, as Ned will decide what will happen to him after he does that. And Ned gives him a mysterious package that contain a demon god worshipper starter pack. Ned claims he finds it in the room of the demon god worshipper, and explained to Sahach that he doesn't have the leisure to choose the means of doing his tasks. In the end, the mad dog Sahach, the enemy of all of those who are a part of the hunters, accepts to be one of the demon god worshipper. He is so ecstatic to have another chance, claiming that he won't be the one that dies, instead, Zephyr will. It is then revealed that Ned is a disciple of a demon god worshipper official. He knows that Zephyr uses his school's martial art techniques, while the only people who know those techniques are his master and the 4 brothers. He plans to use Zephyr to get rid of Sahach, while thinking if Zephyr is not on his side, he can just get rid of Zephyr himself. Back into White Rose's dungeon, Zephyr takes out the predator's corpse that he saves in his silver room. They both agree that he will give him another predator's corpse and Rose will purchase items for him. Finishes dealing with White Rose, Zephyr goes back eating with his party. As the atmosphere getting awkward, Zephyr claims he doesn't drink horse piss and takes out an expensive and rare drink. He notices it from Rose's dungeon and asks her to give it to him. With that, they start getting to know each other, as he thinks that he will be sure to create results with those guys, and they will help him take care of monsters around there. Whether he likes it or not, they are now in the same boat until the raid. Since he was on the same team as Goth in his past life, Zephyr already know what to do with him, as he only need a good teacher to improve. However, he should try to work with the other members as well. On the other hand, Dale, the Blonde's member, doesn't actually like Zephyr, and thoughts that soon they all will know the truth about what happened once time passes. He thoughts that Zephyr is a scammer that won't last long. The next dungeon they go to is located at the cave town Adeline, a town created hundreds years ago by building homes within the mountains. Inside, full of spider web, where Zephyr uses his mana detection. He spread mana outwards from his body, then through the ground, and able to extend the range of his sense. The shape of objects, any sudden movement, an object with magical power instilled, Zephyr can sense everything as if he is touching it himself. Before they enter, Zephyr briefs them for a moment. He explains that inside the dungeon is a black steel spider. Counting out Zephyr, it's actually outside their capabilities though, so Dale against the idea entering the cave. Black steel spider, a spider-like monster who has high offensive stats, but an even higher defensive stat. At the worst of all, is the rate they are able to grow in numbers, which makes a nest of black steel spiders is so difficult to deal with than a grown predator. But Zephyr says to him that Dale doesn't need to enter if he doesn't feel confident in Zephyr, adding that Zephyr can easily clear it by himself. Dealing with the predator and a duel with the heresy examiner Sahach. Both of them weren't things that Dale witnessed himself, so he assumes that the dungeon isn't as dangerous as Zephyr says. Thinking about it, Dale makes a sloppy mistake touching the spider web, notifies the spider nearby. As the spiders attack him, Zephyr grabs Dale out of the way and tank the little spider mob that came. With Zephyr's passive, the spider unable to bite his hand, and he tells the members to gather close to him to deal with the spiders. Even though it's just small spider, the web is still hard to deal with, which will root them if they are not careful. Fortunately, Zephyr instructs them to cover their weapon with cloth to shake off all of the spider webs, and it's working. With a mana punch, Zephyr obliterate all of the spiders that attack them. Zephyr thoughts how that is pretty normal happening to him, even in his past life. He constantly has to train soldiers. There were plenty of them that didn't know what to do, even if he told them the specifics. Since Dale was able to concentrate on taking care of the problem after messing up, it's not that big of an issue, and it's better for Dale to experience things for himself rather than Zephyr tells him everything. The next thing they need to deal with is the bigger spiders, while before Zephyr told them that the flesh near the stomach area is softer than the back, suggesting them to go for it. And they did. While the tank aggro the spider, Dale and Goth keep going for the spider's soft flesh. In the end, the three of the original party able to defeat the spider, and Zephyr commends them for it, saying that it's not that bad for their first time dealing with the spider. While being broken and knows everything, Zephyr kills a truckload of spiders, while the three of them only manages to kill a single one. Zephyr tells them to regroup and eat, as what's left from the dungeon is the boss. Goth asks him what he used to be before being a slave, and Zephyr claims to be an explorer. Goth rephrases asking whether Zephyr was part of large guild or an apprentice of someone famous, which makes Dale also curious about it. It instead reminds Zephyr that he is indeed an apprentice of someone great in his past life. But he doesn't tell them that. Instead, he asks them to finish quickly and breaking the spider legs to use as a weapon. He then tells them to go out as he will finish on his own, which they refuse to do so, saying that since they had gone that far, they want to stay and finish it together. And Zephyr explained that they are not going to do nothing as he give each of them a role. So Zephyr goes inside the spider queen's nest. The breeding room for the queen has a special night spiders, where their sole duty is to protect their queen. From the silver room, Zephyr takes out a bunch of bags of ordinary flour. He then throws it towards the queen's guard. In an instant, Zephyr takes out a crossbow, shooting an arrow towards the spider. The flame burst within the thick flour will ignite the flour particles, causing a chain reaction. That is the principle of a spell called a dust explosion. Of course, the spiders aren't that weak enough to die from something like that, and starts chasing Zephyr. So he runs while shooting poison arrows to it, making it screams in pain. Before Zephyr goes, he shows a pouch he takes from the spider where black spiders produce their web. He explains to them how to use it, lay traps with the webs where he tells them to, and stay on guard while they are waiting for him. The inside of the queen's room is going to filled with many more spider web than the outside, so they won't have a chance if they fight inside. So they need to lure the queen out, as a spider knight trapped within the web that the party laid. Zephyr takes out the spider leg that he broke before and starts attacking the spider knight. Then, what comes after is the queen itself, chasing Zephyr as it wants to devour him whole. As he nearly out towards the cave's entrance, the queen shoots a poison towards him. Fortunately, he closely manages to jump out from the cave with the queen right behind him. He tells everyone to start attacking, and with the spider legs in both hands, Zephyr also starts attacking it. Since the only one who can take the boss head on is Zephyr, he will be tanking from the front line, and the other party members will deal damage to it. Goth tells them that the queen's outer shell is the only hard thing while the inside is a bunch of nerves. So, with a knife he stabbed the queen's leg and hammer it to completely destroy its inner part. While Dale cover his blade with poison that Zephyr gave him, as he feels excited failing to notice the queen's sting is coming at him. Fortunately, Zephyr is able to hit its head hard and makes it miss its attack. He able to block everything that come at him, as the other members fails to follow what Zephyr is doing. Well, it's just like Zephyr said, where he explained that the queen spider will definitely stay on the spot that it initially lands on, because the queen usually stay in the breeding room to lay eggs, so it has a habit of limiting the movement of its back legs. And because of that, the space behind their legs are usually safe while most of its attack will be focused on targets in front of it. When the poison reaching its body, the queen starts rampaging, and Zephyr dashed forward right in the queen's stomach. He reaches the poison gland in her neck, pulls it outside, then ties it up with his belt. With that, it won't be able to use its poison for like 5 minutes, and Zephyr starts climbing on its arm and jumps up to stomp its head, shocking it. In the end, they manage to slay the Spider Queen. While Dale is the only person that notices Zephyr is the one letting them have it, and now he knows that Zephyr is really that strong. Looking at the queen's corpse, Zephyr thoughts how he can't get rid of the sign that the Spider Queen was there, so he decides to just take the bigger spider's corpse to give to Rose. Then suddenly, Dale lay out a carpet to him asking him whether he wants to rest and let Dale to take care of the rest. Now, thinking about it, with the three of them, things aren't too bad, as Zephyr can save some energy to deal with the spiders and he can use them more in the future. But they wouldn't be able to help him dealing with what's to come at him in the future. Back at the temple, Rose deals with the buyer who buy the corpse of the predator. It is unthinkable for her to do shady deals inside a temple during the middle of the day, yet it is quite interesting to see. Zephyr thoughts that maybe there isn't a single naive person in this world that thinks that all temples are holy places, void of corruption. He then explained that the money that worshippers donate to temple continues to pile up, resulting in entire cities being constructed around temples. That's all because the temple knights and battle slaves make sure that monsters don't approach them. Walking together, Rose tells Zephyr that they are quite lucky to find a good price for the predator, though she didn't thought that he would bring black spiders that quickly. With that, she also gives him a silver alchemist set that he needs to use later. Suddenly, Ned appears from behind calling out to them. It reveals that Ned is one of only 12 Class 1 examiners, a skilled member acknowledged even by the temple, the direct superior of Sahach, and the one that beaten Sahach is right in front of him talking with Rose, which makes her anxious. He tries to take Rose away, intending to talk to her alone, but Zephyr gets in the way. Ned comments saying that now he remembers that Zephyr has a nice relationship with their Sahach. But Zephyr ended up provoking him, saying that his memories isn't that good, and he can't seem to remember useless people. They both then release their aura making it clashes, each with their own strength. It makes Rose freaks out, as she can't believe it the sharp magic energy come out from their aura clashing. And now she knows that Zephyr is not just a normal battle slave, which in par with the temple knights, or even beyond. Although Ned wasn't intending to go there to fight, he decides to have a little fun anyway. As they uses the same technique, Ned wants to know Zephyr's strength. But, as they are going to strike each other, Rose uses the temple authority to command them to kneel. Bound by the stigma of slaves engraving, they have to follow those who are marked by the followers of the light, which is Rose. She then slaps Zephyr, asking who he is daring to do something like that, and she takes him away as she claims the need to teach him a lesson. As she walk away with Zephyr, she doesn't forget to tell Ned that Zephyr is her toy, and if he tries to do anything, she will kill Ned. Finding somewhere quiet, Rose explained that he can just fight everyone around him, adding that Ned is really dangerous as she is still shaking. Since Ned is a Class 1 examiner, there isn't a single person that knows how he fights, since all of the people that saw him fight are dead. She then keeps nagging as Zephyr is now her money printer. After that, she tries to apologize that she slapped him, and tells him to be careful as she won't be able to protect him outside of the temple. Zephyr then brushes her off, saying that he was just saying hi to Ned, adding if Ned really does something, there is nothing she could do anyway. He then goes to the lab, leaving Rose behind. Meanwhile, Ned is in a bad mood that he has to feel the power of the engravement. He remembers when he's still with his master, where he tells Ned to have a slave engravement, and tries to refuse it. His master explained to him that their brethren who infiltrated the temple as priests were revealed and executed, and the only thing the demon god worshipper can do is to engrave themselves, so the followers of the light won't suspect him. He also adds that the mission can only be done by Ned, as his master claims that they found a way to nullify the mark, but Ned is not going to use it now and will wait for the right time. In faraway village, Sahach comes inside. He asks around on how much people in the vicinity, which a random person says that is about 50 people. Fully recovered, Sahach then uses a red flute. Appears a demon behind him, where it immediately after the people around. The demon is feasting on the people while Sahach bathes in blood, thinking that with his power now, he will claim his revenge against Zephyr.